Hey guys, and welcome back to another video, and I am back with another True Crime Tuesday. But before we get into today's video and discuss today's case, I just want to do the usual. So my name's Amber. I upload beauty, fashion and lifestyle videos. If that is the type of content that you like to watch, then why not hit that subscribe button and come along and join my little family. And if you're already part of the family, then make sure that notification bell switched on just so you're notified of whenever I upload a video. And why not give me a thumbs up and leave me a comment in the comment box down below. Before we get into the video, I do like to do a quick disclaimer just to say that I do not mean any disrespect to anyone mentioned in this video, and I also like to quickly mention they do contain adult references. If you are not into that type of thing, then that's fine, click off this video. I'm sure there's plenty of other videos over my channel that you would like to watch, but I will give you a warning for today's case, and this case is a gruesome and grisly one. So if that's not your thing, like I say, feel free to click off at any time. Today's case is about Jodi Arias. Now I'm sure you've heard of this because this case was shocking, and it was actually absolutely like just horrific. And she actually murdered her boyfriend, who was called Travis Alexander. The whole case is just craziness, to be quite honest with you, and it's just absolutely awful that Travis was unfortunate enough to have lost his life due to Jodi's actions. This was one of those cases that literally shocked not only America, because it did happen in America, but the whole world. Like, it was an absolutely shocking case, not only due to its brutality but also due to its perpetrator. So Travis Victor Alexander was born on July 28th 1977 in Riverside, California, to Gary David Alexander and Pamela Elizabeth Morgan Alexander. In July 1977, Travis's dad actually tragically passed away, and after his death, him and his siblings, there was 7 of them, so there was him and his 7 siblings, they were all sent to live with their grandmother, and this was their paternal grandmother, who was called Norma Jean Preston Alexandra Survey. She went on to introduce the children to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and Travis was a salesman of a multi-level marketing company called Prepaid Legal Services. He was also known as a motivational speaker. Jodi Arias was born on July 9th in 1980 in Salinas, California, to William and Sandra Arias. Her father was of Mexican ancestry and her mother was German and English ancestry. So Jodi and Travis actually met in September 2006 at a Prepaid Legal Services conference, which was located in Las Vegas, Nevada. The two became friends straight away. They just seemed to just click and they got on really well. The friendship sort of grew from there. So in November of the same year, Jodi actually converted to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, which, as I previously mentioned, Travis was a member of, and she was actually baptized in Mormon faith on November 26th 2006 in a ceremony in Southern California. So not long after the two became friends, several months later, they actually began dating. They just, like I say, they really clicked, and Jodi decided that she was going to move to Mesa, Arizona in order to live closer to Travis, and Travis and Jodi dated like on and off for a year and a half, and it was often in a long distance relationship. They took turns travelling between the Arizona and California homes that they owned. Travis's friends who knew Jodi and had observed the pair of them together did tend to have a very negative opinion of her. They weren't very keen on her. They didn't really like the way that she acted and went on, and they actually did state that the relationship between Travis and Jodi was unusually tumultuous and Jodi's behaviour was worrying. So after a little bit of a rocky relationship, the pair did actually separate in June of 2007, and Jodi moved in with her grandparents who lived in Eureka, California. However, the breakup didn't end the pair's contact, and as I'm sure many of you will have been through the to and froing of a breakup, the pair did stay in contact. They did continue to exchange sexually explicit text messages. The pair even met up on several occasions, although the worrying thing was Travis did confide in his friends that he did believe that Jodi was stalking him, but they did, even after this, still continue to have like a fragmented friendship. So Travis's close friend, who was called Sky Hughes, told the Huffington Post that Jodi was totally obsessed with Travis and she just wouldn't let him go, and whenever he would try to sever our ties from her, she would threaten to kill herself, and then when he would tell her that he didn't want anything to do with her, Jodi would turn up at his house. He also went on to say that we didn't want it to be her, but we knew that it was, in terms of Travis being murdered. Jodi literally slashed his tyres, she hacked into Travis's Facebook, and she stalked him on outings with other friends and possible girlfriends. According to People magazine, Travis did actually say to a friend that don't be surprised if you find me dead one day. So on the 4th of June in 2008, Travis Alexander was murdered in his home in Mesa, Arizona. Travis was meant to leave on a work-related trip to go to Cancun in Mexico, and originally he had planned to go with Jody because the pair were together, but obviously because of what had happened between them, he decided to take another female friend instead, Mimi Howe. On the 28th of May, which was a month previous to Travis being murdered, a burglary actually occurred at the residence of Jody's grandparents' home. This is where Jody was living at the time. Among the missing objects that were stolen from the house, there was a .25 caliber automatic Colt pistol, which was never ever recovered, and this later became significant in the murder of Travis because there was a shell case from a spent .25 caliber round that was found near Travis's body at the murder scene. So on the run up to Travis being murdered on the 2nd of June, between 1 and 3 a.m, Jody did call Travis 4 times, and it did not appear through phone records that she managed to get through to him, because the longest of these calls was 17 seconds, so it's not really enough time to talk to someone. But after 3 a.m, Travis did actually call Jody back twice, and the first time was for 18 minutes and the second time was for 41 minutes, so they clearly had a significant phone call conversation. At 4:03 a.m, Jody did call Travis back, and the call lasted 2 minutes and 48 seconds. I wonder whether there was some sort of an argument going on here, the way that they've like chatted, put the phone down, chatted, put the phone down, chatted, put the phone down. To me, it maybe signifies that there was maybe an argument occurring or a disagreement of some sort. Who knows? That was never disclosed, because neither of the transcripts were actually entered into the court when Jody was at trial. So at 5:39, Jody set out to drive south to rent a car for a long trip to Utah, as shown by evidence of a gasoline purchase in Eureka. On June 2nd at 8:04 a.m, she indicated that she would return the car to Redding. Jody visited friends in Southern California on her way to Utah, which was for a prepaid legal services conference for work. She also worked for the prepaid legal services company that Travis worked for. She actually met a fellow co-worker called Ryan Burns, and the pair were believed to, well, it's known that the pair were having an intimate relationship. By the late evening on June 3rd, Jody did set out for Salt Lake City. So on June 4th, 2008, Jody then did go to visit Travis at his Arizona home, and prosecutors later claimed that she arrived unannounced. But Jody insisted that Travis had invited her to visit. The two took graphic sexual photos together, which Jody said were Travis's idea. She said that he tied her up on the bed, and then she went on to say that it's not her favourite thing, but it's not unbearable. The following day, Jody then went on to West Jordan in Utah to meet Ryan Burns, which is the co-worker and her other lover that she was having an intimate relationship with. She attended business meetings for the conference, and Ryan did actually go on to say in court that he did notice that she'd changed her blonde hair to dark brown and that she had cuts on her hand. So on June 6th, Jody left Salt Lake City and she drove west towards California. She called Travis's phone several times and left several voicemails for him. She also accessed his cell phone voicemail system, so it was almost as if she was trying to create an alibi for herself. When she returned the car on June 7th, it had been driven around 2,800 miles. The rental clerk testified that the car was missing its floor mats and that there was red stains on its front and rear seat. This couldn't be verified though. By the time the police tried to access the car to collect evidence, the car had actually already been cleaned, so there was no way that they could prove that this was related to the incident. So on June 9th, having been unable to reach Travis, a concerned group of his friends actually decided to go to his home. His roommates had not seen him for several days, and they knew that this was out of the blue for him. You know, he was very into his work and he was very motivated by that, and for him not to attend conferences and to not be in touch with friends and family was just completely out of the blue for him. The reason it did take the friends several days though was because obviously they thought he was going to be out of town on this work trip to Cancun in Mexico, so that's why at first things weren't seen to be out of the ordinary. It was only as days went on and there was no contact that they actually started to realise that there was an issue. So they found a key to Travis's master bedroom. His friends entered and they found large pools of blood in the hallway to the master bedroom. I'm not going to be inserting any pictures of the crime scene because the crime scene, let me just tell you, the pictures are horrific. There is full online. You can go and look at these if you want to. I suggest you do not, because it's something that I wish I didn't do. I cannot unsee those images, and they are not nice images to see, and I really honestly feel for Travis, because this just, it's one of the most horrific crimes. I mean, I've never really looked at crime scene photos, but these photos were horrific. There is pictures of the full crime scene online, including Travis's body, the autopsy photos, everything. If you want to go and look at them, feel free to do so at your disclosure, but I will not be including them in this video because they are graphic and they are horrific. Jody must have had some real rage, because how anyone could do what she did to him, to another human being, is absolutely beyond me. Like, it actually disturbed me. It really upset me. It's not nice. So in the master bedroom, his mangled body was actually found in the shower. His throat was actually slit almost to the point of decapitation. He'd also been shot in the head. So not only had she nearly decapitated him and stabbed him and done everything else, she actually shot him with a .25 caliber gun. Very interesting, considering that was stolen from her grandparents' home. And then there was a bloody palm print which would be discovered in the bathroom hallway, which actually belonged to Jody. There was a 911 call which his friends made. It was not heard by the jury. The dispatcher actually asked the friends if Alexander had been suicidal, or if there was anyone that they knew would be angry enough to hurt him. Alexander's friends went on to specifically mention Jody, and they mentioned that she was stalking him, accessing his Facebook account, slashing his tyres, and they actually called his relationship with Jody a fatal attraction. So while they went on to search Travis's home, police found his recently purchased digital camera had been damaged in the washing machine. So Jody had clearly popped this camera, which was the camera that they'd been taking sexual photos and everything on, in the washing machine to try and dispose of evidence, but it didn't work because the police actually managed to recover some photos from the camera. So the police were able to recover deleted images which showed Jody and Travis in sexually suggestive poses, which had been taken at approximately 1:40 on June 4th. The final photograph of Travis alive. I will insert this picture. It is haunting. There's no like blood or anything like that. This is just a picture, the last picture that was ever taken of him alive, and just look into his eyes, because he looks terrified. He knows what's coming. It's horrific. People do suggest that if you look close enough into his eyes, you can actually see her reflection. He just looks terrified. He really does. But then there were photos that were taken later on the camera that they found that showed an individual which they believed was Travis profusely bleeding on the bathroom floor. The bloody palm print was discovered along a wall in the bathroom hallway, and it did contain DNA from both Jody and Travis. According to Dr. Kelvin Horn of the Maricopa County Medical Examiner Office, Travis's stab wounds were inflicted with major force, and his cause of death was excessive blood loss. He had multiple self-defense wounds on his palms and fingers. Travis sustained 27 to 29 wounds and a slit which caused near throat decapitation. And there was also a gunshot wound to his head, which I did mention earlier. Like, this is just overkill. It was almost like, I get the feeling from her that if she couldn't have him, no one else could, and that's the feeling I get. So medical examiner Kevin Horn testified that Travis's jugular vein, common carotid artery and trachea had been slashed, and that Travis had defensive wounds on his hands. He also testified that he may have been dead at the time of the gunshot wound, and that the back wounds that had been inflicted on his back were shallow. So like, she'd stabbed him X amount of times and he was probably already dead when she decided to shoot him. Like, that's just craziness. So on the 9th of July 2008, Josie was indicted by the grand jury in Maricopa County, Arizona, for the first-degree murder of Travis. She was arrested at her home and extradited to Arizona on September 5th. Jody pleaded not guilty on September 11th, and during this time she gave several different accounts about her involvement in Travis's death. I don't know how this woman can even try and suggest that she didn't have anything to do with his murder. So she originally told the police that she wasn't in Mesa when the murder occurred, and she claimed that she last saw Travis in March of 2008. She then changed her story in September and told various media outlets that two masked intruders tried to attack her and killed Travis. This woman's got an imagination. She went on to say that, quote, "No jury is going to convict me," told Inside Edition that she was innocent, and you can mark her words on that. So 2 years after the arrest, Jodi told police that she had killed Alexander in self-defense. How does this woman expect anyone to believe a word that she says when she's changed her story 3 times? It's just ludicrous. This time, she claimed that she was a victim of domestic abuse and that Travis had actually been abusing her. So in August 2011, Jodi was actually granted a request by a judge to represent herself as long as her public defenders stayed on as an advisory counsel, but the judge then reinstated her defence counsel after it turned out that she'd tried to admit these letters that Travis had apparently wrote into court, and she'd actually wrote them herself and they were forgeries. Co-worker who she was also having an intimate affair with, Ryan Burns, testified that when Jodi visited him in Utah, the two had spent several hours hugging and kissing on a large beanbag chair. She told him she had cut her hands on broken glass while working at a restaurant called Margaritaville, and a detective testified no restaurant by that name ever existed in the Eureka area at that time, and Jodi was working at a restaurant called Casa Romas. I mean, if you're gonna lie and you're gonna say, "Oh, I cut my hand on a glass at work," would you not say that you cut your hand on a glass at the place you actually work at, not a restaurant that's never existed? Where does this lady get her stories from? So later the prosecution argued that since a .25 caliber round was found near Travis's body, they then testified that a gun of the same caliber was stolen from Jodi's grandparents' residence in Eureka the week before. So they suggested that she'd staged a robbery and then used the gun to kill Travis. In addition, it actually come out in court that days before death, Travis had called her a sociopath and the worst thing that had ever happened to me. And then he went on to state that he was actually afraid of her. So Jodi took the stand in her own defence on the February 4th, 2013. She testified for a grand total of 18 days, which is just craziness. Tried to plead that she was violently abused by her parents when she was approximately 7 years old. She also testified that her relationship with Travis became increasingly physical and emotionally abusive. She said that Travis shook her while saying, "Excuse me, because this does have swearing in this bit, it's just a quote. Well, I'm fucking sick of you." And then he began screaming at her, and after that he actually body slammed her to the floor at the foot of the bed and taunted her, saying, "Don't act like that hurts," before he went on to kick her in the ribs and called her a bitch. And then he also went to kick her again, but she put her hand out, and she went on to show the courtroom that her ring finger was crooked due to the incident. According to Jodi, they had a dysfunctional relationship. This came to a climax when she killed him in self-defense after, when they were taking these sexually explicit photos on the day he was murdered, she apparently dropped his camera by an accident, and this enraged him, and she basically had to fight for her life, is what she was saying. But rebuttal witnesses from the prosecution included several of Travis's ex-girlfriends, and all of them stated that he'd never ever with any of them exhibited any problems with anger or violence. So starting on March 14th, psychologist Richard Samuels testified for the defence for nearly 6 days. He said that Jodi was likely suffering from an acute stress at the time of murder, basically sending her body into a fight or flight motion to defend herself, and this had also caused her brain to stop retaining memory. So they were trying to say that she didn't fully remember the incident in the beginning, and she changed her story so many times because she was suffering from this like mental problem that caused her not to fully remember the incident. Samuels also diagnosed Jodi with post-traumatic stress disorder, and Martinez, who was, I think, the opposition, she went on to attack Samuels' credibility, accusing him of forming a relationship with Jodi and being biased. Samuel had previously testified that he had compassion for Jodi, and clinical psychologist Janine DeMarte testified for the prosecution, stating that she had found no evidence that Travis had abused Jodi, and there was no evidence of PTSD or amnesia. So on May 7th, 2013, after 15 hours of deliberation, Jodi was found guilty of first-degree murder. Out of 12 jurors, 5 jurors found her guilty of first-degree murder, premeditated murder, and 7 jurors found her guilty of both first-degree premeditated murder and felony murder. As the guilty verdict was read, Travis's family smiled and hugged each other. People outside the courtroom actually began cheering and chanting. This was a massive case in America. So Jodi was found guilty of first-degree murder, but the jury could not reach an unanimous decision on whether to sentence her to death or not. So on October 21st, 2014, Jodi's sentencing retrial began, and opening statements were given and a hearing on the evidence was held. On April 13, 2015, Jodi was sentenced to life imprisonment without the possibility of parole, and by March 5th, 2015, Jodi's trial cost an estimated £3 million. So in June 2015, following a restitution hearing, Jodi actually was ordered to pay more than $32,000, should I say, to Alexander's siblings. Her attorney stated that this was about a third of the amount requested. And then as of 2016, Jodi is housed at the Arizona Department of Corrections, which is located at Arizona State Prison Complex in Perryville. She started her sentence in the complex's maximum security Lumley unit, but she has the possibility of being downgraded to a medium security level. This case is so disturbing to me, and so absolutely just it's just brutal. And what made her snap? Like, I do genuinely think, like I mentioned earlier, it was this whole thing of, if I can't have you, no one else can. I really don't know what made her snap in this case, but I really feel for Travis's family. You know, he was such a respected, and he seemed like he was really career driven and really focused, and like he wanted to get, you know, be someone and go places. And it's just sad that he had his life taken away from him by someone he actually once loved. It's absolutely disgraceful, and I just hope that his family have peace now. And as far as I'm concerned with Jodi, lock her up and throw away the key. All the time she lied to try and save her own ass. I'm not being funny. There's no way it wasn't her. She knew what she was doing, and I think it was a fit of rage, and just the intensity of how she committed the crimes and the intensity of what she did to Travis. Like, she needs locking up and the key needs thrown away, or she needs putting on death row. Like, and I don't think she should ever be downgraded in security level either. I don't think she deserves it, to be honest. But anyway guys, I hope you've enjoyed watching this video. I'd love to know what your thoughts and feelings on this case are. Let me know that down below. Have you heard of this case before? It's one of the more shocking cases that I've covered on my channel, especially in terms of just complete brutality. I really struggle to understand that someone could do this to another human being. It really blows my mind. But I shall see you in the next case.